In a visit to Lampedusa, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen promises Italy's Premier Giorgia Meloni her backing in the migrant crisis.
A show of solidarity. Following the collapse of two dams in the Libyan city of Derna on Monday, residents from nearby cities are volunteering their support. Two cargo ships successfully dock in Ukraine using a new Black Sea corridor. They're the first to arrive since Russia withdrew from the UN-brokered grain deal.
Carlos Sainz clinches the Singapore Grand Prix, ending Max Verstappen's dominant winning streak of 10 consecutive wins.
Seeing for themselves at first hand the small boats abandoned in Lampedusa's Favaloro quay by migrants who've crossed from Africa. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was invited here by Italy's Prime Minister after a week in which more than 8,000 migrants came ashore on the small Sicilian island.
Noi siamo di fronte a una portata tale in tema di flussi migratori che se non lavoriamo seriamente e tutti insieme sul contrasto alle partenze illegali, i numeri di questo fenomeno travolgeranno prima gli stati di frontiera ma poi tutti gli altri.
With Italy at the sharp end of the migrant crisis, there were promises of support from Brussels.
Migration is a European challenge and it needs a European answer and solution. It is concrete actions that will bring change on the ground. It is only through solidarity and unity that we can achieve this. And you can count on the European Union.
But the scale of the crisis is testing that unity. The Italian government says 127,000 people have made the crossing to Italy this year, twice as many as in the same period last year.
Derna, a port city in eastern Libya, once famous for its lush gardens and canals, now in ruins. Last Monday, two dams above the city burst due to heavy rains. More than 11,000 people are reported dead and 10,000 are still missing. Collective grief has morphed into a rallying cry for unity in a country blighted by 12 years of conflict and division. The oil-rich country is divided between the internationally recognised government in Tripoli and a rival authority in the east since 2014.
نوع من الربكة حقيقة أكيد لدى الحكومتين في الشرق والغرب، ولكن يظل العامل الإنساني هو الأعلى قيمة وهو اللي يجمع ويربط ما بين كل الليبيين.
Residents in Libya's capital are reportedly donating blood for flood victims, but aid organisations say the distribution of essential supplies has been highly disorganised, with minimal amount of resources reaching the worst affected areas. Looking ahead, it remains unclear how authorities will rehome the population. Two cargo ships arriving in Odessa, Ukraine. Despite the fact that Russia has withdrawn from a wartime agreement designed to ensure safe grain exports from the invaded country's ports. Flying the Palau flag, these vessels are the first to load grain since the Kremlin abandoned the pact and the establishment of a new temporary Black Sea corridor. The Arroyat and Resilient Africa docked on Saturday at the Chornomorsk seaport. Their mission to transport 20,000 tonnes of wheat to Africa and Asia. This after Ukrainian reports that Moscow has intensified its attacks on port infrastructure and grain silos in southern Odessa. Ukrainian officials say Russian forces fired 10 cruise missiles and 6 Iranian-made Shahed drones, but all of them were shot down. Meanwhile, Russian authorities claim that overnight Saturday, Ukrainian drones attacked the annexed Crimea Peninsula and several Russian regions.
The long-range ATACMS missile, which can be fired from this HIMARS missile launcher, has always been on Ukraine's shopping list of weapons, and now reports suggest the US may be about to supply them. The missile has a range of about 300 kilometres and will give Kiev a big military boost. President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to visit Washington, D.C. next week as Congress debates whether to approve more aid for Ukraine. And the missile's target would likely be the Crimean Peninsula, which is very strategically important to Russia.
Este aumento de la apuesta lo que pretende es darle un empujón a la guerra y apuntar ya directamente no a ganancias territoriales pequeñas en las zonas adyacentes, sino bueno, vamos a ir directamente por Crimea. 2024 es un año políticamente muy sensible. Hay elecciones en Estados Unidos, hay elecciones al Parlamento Europeo, pueden venir otros gobiernos y cambian los jugadores y el juego puede que no sea el mismo.
With winter on its way, the window of opportunity for Ukraine and its counter-offensive is narrowing. But some rules of the game have to be kept. In particular, Kiev's promise not to use Western weapons inside Russia.
In terms of guarantees, there has to be enough trust that the political leadership has enough control over the military leadership. It doesn't look like the political leadership has all the control and all the trust, because we don't know how the new defense minister will be acting, what his strategy will be, what he will be pursuing.
Billions of euros of arms are also promised for Ukraine from European states. Denmark and the Netherlands will send over 70 F-16 fighter jets. Germany will deliver a modest 40 armoured vehicles, but Poland will supply nearly 500 HIMARS missile launchers, which can be used to fire ATACMS missiles. Vladimir Putin insists the Russian economy is stable and reliable, despite Western sanctions, high inflation and the weak ruble. On Friday, the central bank raised interest rates to 13%, and economists warn there are fundamental problems lurking below the surface.
Российская экономика работает на пределе, на абсолютном пределе своих возможностей, и это можно проверить прежде всего по такому показателю, как безработица. Она находится на исторически низких уровнях. Это значит, что в стране буквально некому работать. Когда некому работать, это значит, что производственные мощности загружены по самое, что называется, не могу. Поэтому российская экономика старается как может преодолеть то давление, с которым она столкнулась после того, как Владимир Путин решил вторгнуться в Украину.
Economists are also concerned about inflation forecasts, which look unreasonably optimistic, and the income situation. With the sanctions, the massive revenues from oil and gas have declined.
Я думаю, что будет хуже, потому что видно по торговому балансу прежде всего. Мы видим, что экспортные доходы снижаются серьезно. А экспортные доходы от продажи нефти – это самое главное у нас источник доходов. А уже сократились эти доходы где-то процентов на 40-45. И похоже на то, что эта тенденция будет продолжаться.
Imports are a problem too. Last month, the weak ruble fell to 100 against the dollar for the first time, meaning imports are now more expensive. And yet the Russian government recently improved its forecast for economic growth for 2023 to 2.8%.
Poland has begun to enforce an EU ban on all Russian-registered passenger cars seeking to enter the country. It's the latest in a series of sanctions on Moscow in punishment for its war against Ukraine. Poland shares a land border with the Russian territory of Kaliningrad, an exclave separated from the Russian mainland. The move comes just days after the nearby Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia enforced similar bans. Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy head of Russia's Security Council, denounced the European Commission's move as racist.
More support for health workers. That's the message striking general practitioners in Portugal had for their government in early September. Similar walkouts have taken place in the UK, France and Spain already this year. One expert says clinicians in Italy might soon be rallying behind them.
Noi principali che abbiamo in Italia c'è un carico di lavoro eccessivo, il numero di pazienti che sono assegnati a ciascun medico di famiglia è spesso troppo elevato e che ovviamente può compromettere la qualità delle cure fornite e l'accessibilità ai servizi sanitari. La media degli assistiti in Italia è di circa 1070 assistiti per ogni medico di famiglia.
Across the European continent, the battle cry is the same: higher pay and less overtime hours.
At this moment, our gross product in health is one of the lowest all over European Union and even in the OECD countries. A medical doctor earns 41,000 euros a year, a specialist that works 40 hours.
Moving east to Spain, hundreds and thousands of striking health workers say they are also plagued with an excessive amount of paperwork.
Hay compañeros que están de baja porque la situación ya les ha desbordado, porque es que físicamente no son capaces de soportar la carga laboral que tienen y psicológicamente les ha superado también.
Mais il y a quelque chose qui n'est pas mesuré et qui est très complexe, qui est probablement, hélas aussi, une surmortalité évitable par des prises en charge trop tardives, par faute de dépistage, de messages de prévention et de retard aussi dans les prises en charge une fois le diagnostic posé.
Carlos Sainz led from start to finish to clinch the Singapore Grand Prix, ending Max Verstappen's dominant winning streak of 10 consecutive wins. Sainz's strategic prowess was on full display as he controlled the race, managing his tyres and helping former teammate Lando Norris hold off the chasing Mercedes duo. The excitement reached its peak when a virtual safety car with 18 laps to go brought George Russell and Lewis Hamilton into contention with fresh medium tyres. However, Sainz's defensive manoeuvres denied the Mercedes challenge, whilst Verstappen had to settle for 5th place. This result sees Carlos Sainz secure his second Formula One career win, whilst Verstappen still maintains a commanding lead in the overall standings with 151 points over his closest rival Sergio Perez. As for the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull remains in the lead with 597 points, followed by Mercedes with 289 points and Ferrari with 265.